As I've said before, the beauty of the market is that prices convey two kinds of information. They tell you how much it costs to produce something, and they also tell you how much a person is willing to pay to get something. And by equating those two things, we drive society to an efficient allocation of resources. But a crucial assumption there is that the people who are involved in the transaction are sort of the only people who matter. So the consumers know their preferences, they know what they like. And so when they see the price and they know their own willingness to pay, they decide to buy. And if they buy, they get the value. Nobody else gets the value. Nobody else suffers because they make the decision or don't make the decision. The firm knows the price and it knows how much it costs to make the good, and it decides if it wants to or not based on those factors. And there's no other people who bear additional costs because they make the good or bear additional losses if they don't make the good. But in many cases, that's simply not true. The classic example that's usually given in these classes is pollution. So pollution is an example of an externality where suppose a firm like a coal power plant shoots off a lot of bad stuff into the air, creates a lot of air pollution as part of its production process. So the more electricity it makes, the more pollution it makes. Okay, that pollution we now know causes like serious health damage to individuals who are out there who are not party to the decision about whether to buy electricity from the coal plant or not. They might all have solar panels. They might get their energy from a different state. It doesn't matter. They're affected by the decision of the two parties involved here, the coal factory and whoever its buyers are, or single buyer, whatever. The coal factory looks at the price and it says, this is the price of electricity. I'm going to increase output. And there's this extra cost in terms of lost health that's being borne by other people, but that doesn't enter into its calculus because it's a profit maximizing firm. If it worried about those other things, it might get driven out of business by a rival, or maybe it simply doesn't care. Okay. On the consumer side, the person deciding to buy that electricity from the coal plant, they get the electricity. And yes, it's true that by buying the electricity, they also create extra pollution, but the cost, the effect of that is borne by lots of people. It's not all concentrated on me. The benefit of the electricity is concentrated to me, the purchaser. I get to turn my lights on. It doesn't affect anybody else's lights. But the health damage is widely diffused among many people who all bear a little bit of an increased health risk. Another example, which is much more timely as I'm recording this, is global disease or diseases in general. Okay, so if I'm running a meat packing plant and there's a outbreak of a deadly disease like the coronavirus, which is sweeping through America right now, the cost to me of like increasing production might mean that I have to bring a lot of workers together in a small confined space, and I could change my production processes so that they all have masks and maybe are spaced, and maybe we slow things down so that we reduce the risk of infection. And I certainly benefit from doing that. If I don't have to shut down, that's a pro for me. But I don't capture all of the benefits of doing that, okay? I bear all of the costs, but the benefits go to the society at wide, all right? If one of those guys goes on to infect his town, and then his town diffuses and infects the whole country, the costs to the country are astronomical compared to the cost to the firm for, losing one employee through disease, for a couple weeks or something like that. So they're not going to invest the potential lost GDP to the United States. They're going to invest the potential loss to their own bottom line through maybe having a worker that's not able to perform or not able to work. Similarly, people decide if they're going to endure the inconvenience of, buying masks and wearing masks. Their personal value from wearing a mask might be very low, and so they don't want to buy many. But the value to other people from that decision is very high. And so society would like you to basically buy and use those products because there's a positive benefit. And this segues into the idea that externalities do not have to be bad. They can also be good. They're just benefits or costs that are not captured by the parties in the transaction. Another positive externality is, new knowledge or research. Okay, so if I do some research that discovers a new idea, it might be applicable to other firms, and so they benefit from my decision too, but I don't think about their benefits when making the decision about how much to do. Apple doesn't think, if we did a little bit extra research on SmartScreen, or smartphone like screens, it could really benefit Google too, because I know they're struggling with this problem. So if we cracked it, it'd be really useful to them. They don't worry about that. They worry about what's this going to do for Apple, and does the return on investment make sense? So we're going to analyze in this unit how we think through these issues and how they can possibly be resolved.